Well, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Marisa SANDAG. I work at SANDAG, which is a regional government agency responsible for all the long-range transportation planning and some construction of projects in our region, like the Mid-Coast Trolley Extension. I'm here to give you kind of an overview of mobility hubs as SANDAG's defining them, and I'll start with a little bit of information on the construction project itself, and then of course Ray Hardigan, who's coming after me, will talk specifically about changes on campus and what the campus is planning for long term, particularly right around the Pepper Canyon Station. We're thrilled to be partnering with the Design Lab on this effort. As a former student and UCSD staff member myself, I'm just thrilled to see all the changes occurring here on campus. Back when I was a student in 2000, I heard about a trolley maybe coming someday, and I'm just so excited that in just 2 more years, it'll be here, and I'll be there on the first day to ride it up to campus. The trolley line itself, just to make sure everyone's on the same page, we're building 9 new stations, starting in the Tecolote station in the Linda Vista community all the way up to UTC. 6 of those 9 stations are in this community. So it's a pretty big deal. It's going to make it a lot easier for people to get downtown and also down to the border. It's going to be an 80-minute, 1-seat, no transfer ride from UTC Terminus Station down to San Ysidro. For the Pepper Canyon Station specifically, if you were to go from Pepper Canyon over to the UTC Mall, it's just about 6 minutes. That's the estimated time frame. And then Pepper Canyon down to America Plaza downtown on Broadway and Kettner is about 29 minutes. A lot of active construction going on. I was lucky enough to be able to go on a mid-coast tour just this past Monday, and it was amazing to see all the changes just on campus, but also the trolley construction progress and how that's going to be a huge addition to our region and to the employment center here at UCSD and in the surrounding area. So mobility hubs. It's a complex topic, and I'm going to kind of break it down for you so you can understand how we're thinking about hubs, not just in terms of a new trolley station or a transit center, but how we think about connecting to that transit center and how we extend the reach of transit beyond just first and last mile. So we have this kind of signature mobility hub illustration that SANDAG developed as part of our last regional transportation plan, and we kind of rendered all of the little components that could appear in a mobility hub to help people access the station, find the information they need to get there, and some other services. So I'll break down the illustration for you into about 4 different pieces. First are all the active transportation components. They might seem kind of boring or typical, but it's really important to have safe walkways and crossings for people of all ages and abilities to get to and from the station, and making sure you prioritize and allocate the space accordingly. Bikeways are also safe, not just for bikes, but now we're seeing scooters that are part of shared fleets, seeing how things are going to change in terms of how people personally own hoverboards and scooters, one-wheeled boards, you name it. Those types of new mobility or emerging technology solutions are upon us now and set to grow here in the region like they are in places like the Bay Area and other spots. And then having secure parking for either your bike or your scooter or hoverboard at the station and also throughout the mobility hub area. A wide range of shared mobility services that could be cited in and around transit, not forgetting the fact that transit, by definition, is a shared service. It's really pooling people and getting people to not drive alone and really share a vehicle to get where they need to go, using some kind of high-frequency schedule or service. Bike share, scooter share, car share. There's an available vehicle somewhere on campus where if you didn't have a car that day but you need to run an errand and go to a place where there's no transit, there's a vehicle there for you to borrow, whether that's a zip car or a peer-to-peer service like GetAround, something like that's available. On-demand rideshare, you're all probably familiar with Uber and Lyft and how their models have changed with either pooling rides or hailing your own direct door-to-door ride. Those types of services we assume are going to remain and grow and someday become autonomous and connected. Microtransit service, just kind of shuttles on steroids where they're not necessarily having a fixed route or stops, but there could be virtual stops, on-demand hailing, kind of flexible services. We see those as a good opportunity to connect to trunk line transit services like the trolley. And neighborhood electric vehicles, a special classification of vehicles that are meant to go low speed, no more than 25 miles per hour. They could seat 2, 4, or 6 people, so you could use them as a personally owned vehicle in a low speed lane, or as a part of a shared fleet like car share, or as a shuttle service. And we actually have some neighborhood electric vehicle shuttles downtown through the free ride if you've ever ridden that when you've gone downtown. And then the wide range of ridables I mentioned earlier, like hoverboards and scooters and things, personal mobility, micromobility solutions that people need safe facilities to use them. A wide range of supporting services and amenities. Don mentioned a few kind of items regarding retail and being able to get some errands done while you're en route to and from transit. Having information about where all of these amenities are. Real-time information also not just about the trolley itself, but every type of shared service I mentioned before. Where they are, how close are they, is it available, how charged up is it, you know, right in the palm of your hand or right on a display at the transit station or at a place on campus or at your employer. You know, just being informed so that even if you may have pre-planned your trip to get to campus, once you get off the trolley, you're thinking, actually, I want to do something else because now I realize there's some other option available and you can make a change just like that and it's a seamless experience. Electric vehicle charging, not just for personal cars, like we might see charging stations sited throughout campus or in large employment areas, but for the shared services themselves. Are we moving towards an era of having wireless charging, for example? How are we going to be charging our electric buses? Things like that. And then wayfinding, that's truly multimodal, not just for pedestrians, but figuring out how folks can figure out where they need to go, whether they're on a bike or a scooter or in their microtransit service, regardless of which speed they're moving. You know, how do we make it truly multimodal and adaptable? Package delivery and mobile retail services, not necessarily mobility related, but they're items that allow an errand to come to you. So rather than needing your personal car to go complete an errand, to mail something or pick up your package, your groceries, your dry cleaning or getting a haircut, there's mobile barber services and those types of options that could be cited in the greater mobility hub area that allow getting those things done to be done without the use of a personal car. And then a lot of the supporting technology that could make transition from now to kind of a 5G future a little bit easier with the autonomous vehicles, the connected vehicles, vehicles talking to each other, vehicles talking to the infrastructure around them, sensing where there's bikes or pedestrians to make sure that they can move about safely because they're not in the vehicle with you. Smart parking solutions, I know campus is working on doing a lot of those types of things with parking availability and parking reservation, having in the palm of your hand to get information about where parking is available or where loading zones are available so that you know and you're well informed. This simple graphic kind of conveys this idea of a hub area and all the different access sheds. So kind of reiterating the fact that all of these types of solutions are not just limited to the immediate transit station area, but you may think about concentrating some of them within a 5-minute walk, a 5-minute bike, or a 5-minute drive when you're thinking about the motorized services. So really extending the reach of transit beyond the first and last mile, figuring out where to site some of these things so they're suitable, and knowing that at a place like this, where at UCSD, where you have the trolley station, there's also the Gilman Drive Transit Center. There's different kind of pockets or nodes of where maybe transit could converge. And so thinking about how you could apply some of these sheds in different areas. When we think about the drive shed for the Pepper Canyon station, it's actually pretty far reaching. When you look at the street network and how long it takes to drive in 5 minutes, assuming kind of no heavy traffic, you're able to kind of get down to SIO down the road, and you're able to get over to Westfield, UTC. So it's a large area. And
what that diagram misses is that in some cases, it's faster to walk than to take a car. So there's an overlap.
Exactly.
It isn't, that shows that drive is always further distance. No, sometimes it's a shorter distance.
And if you're driving alone, it could take a long time. But maybe if you have infrastructure that's going to dedicate space or lanes for rideshare services or microtransit vehicles or those neighborhood electric vehicles, those are motorized services that drive. But they could be prioritized in a way to be faster than if you were to drive alone and then also need to look for parking at the end of your trip. One of the resources we're going to provide all of you as you kind of embark on this design challenge is our Mobility Hub Features Catalog. And a lot of you may be already familiar with a lot of these services, and I mentioned a lot of them during in looking at the Mobility Hub illustration, but I'll just go through quickly to break down with an image collage of all the different examples of Mobility Hub services and amenities that we've thought of as we crafted this catalog, and we encourage you to use it as a resource as you carry out the challenge. So 5 categories of different hub features based on a color coding system where we have features right at the transit station, items that you might think about concentrating in a 5-minute walk, 5-minute bike, 5-minute drive, and then some of those support services I mentioned that could literally be sprinkled throughout the greater mobility hub area. So real-time information regarding the transit service and shared mobility service, interactive wayfinding kiosks where you can really use kind of a touch screen, charge up your phone, make sure it's juiced so that you could use Compass Cloud or whatever kind of transit app you have at the moment. You're going to need kind of you're always going to need a charged device to be able to find what kind of service you need and where you need to go. So making sure there's Wi-Fi at the transit station. I'm working really hard to figure out with Midcoast engineers how we could try to get something like that to happen at the trolley stations for this new Midcoast extension, even if it's just a pilot basis. We're in the 21st century. We need to remain kind of connected and charged up. Passenger loading zones are also really important, not necessarily just for traditional kiss and ride, but for all the services that are connecting to the trolley beyond just the bus services. They need space to safely drop off and pick up so they're not getting in the way of moving traffic or spilling over into certain parts of campus because they're already very kind of dense with buildings and pedestrian activity. The walking and biking amenities, just want to really hone in on bike share, which you already now have on campus, and hopefully the campus will be exploring how to take that system to the next level with electric assist or considering other micromobility solutions so as to ensure students have options, but they can also use them in a safe manner, given that there are a lot of pedestrians on campus and vehicles still riding around the campus. Bike parking options that are safe and secure, and things like bike repair stations where you can tune up your bike or put some air in your tires while you're on your way, because it's always unpredictable when you're going to have an issue with your bike, or perhaps you need to charge up your electric bike if you happen to have one. And then the wide variety of motorized services, including allocating the space dedicated to those services on street so that they can either operate and run with priority compared to driving alone and having the space to pick up and drop off. The one thing I wanted to mention out of all of these items, actually two, is the two things I'm most excited about is scooter share, but thinking about moped scooter share. I have this kind of dream someday that we're going to introduce mopeds into our region, maybe not appropriate on campus per se, but in some other areas where we have the Midcoast trolley line going, I'm definitely including it in our recommendations because it's still a low-speed option that can either be part of a shared fleet or personally owned. You're taking up less space when you're parking the vehicle, you're using less gas, perhaps they're electric, and you're taking up less space on the road while driving at a safe speed. And then the other item is flexible curb space. So when we talk about needing curb space to pick up and drop off, in a really busy, dense area like this campus or in the university city community in general, it's hard to always find the right amount of space to allocate for each different use. So we're going to have to think about services sharing the space or having the curb space change between peak period commute times and non-peak. And maybe a mobile retail service could use that passenger loading area when it's not, crunch time in the morning or afternoon. So thinking about how we can allocate flexible curb space, but how do you make users aware that it's flexible? Just by some static sign, it's not going to be enough. So I would encourage you to think about how we can be creative about that flex space. And then the wide variety of support services. The picture on the upper left, the green lockers, is actually a picture I took in New Zealand of a grocery delivery locker at a ferry station. So as someone's getting off their ferry before they maybe catch their bus or take their car to ride home, they're able to pick up groceries. And it was kind of a really convenient thing to see. Mobile barber, and then the idea of a universal transportation account. That's our vision for having some kind of app in your hand where you can find, book, and pay for all of your mobility needs, even including things like tolling and managing your toll credits. Any way in which you need to move around, there's kind of one platform for you to do that. I think a few years ago we thought about maybe it was the public sector that would develop something like that, but as we've kind of evolved, we realized it's probably the private sector, the Ubers or the Googles, that are going to aggregate all the different services and incorporate other options into that app so you have one single account to do everything that you need, including trip planning. What I'd like to do next, I think I have to escape out of this keynote thing and go to the browser. I'm going to play just a video that's a couple of minutes long. It's a visual simulation that we completed as part of a different mobility hub project for working with the city of Oceanside and the North County Transit District to create a simulation of a mobility hub and how some of these amenities could exist in the greater hub area. So I'll play that now. I don't know if the sound's going to work, but I can always talk you guys through it. So we had about 7 different areas in the greater hub area, all within the drive shed, that 5-minute drive shed. And they're going to go through each one by one, starting with the station itself, showing the existing condition, how we populated it with features, and then the features will move.
that relevant to us? Because these are all city streets, and there aren't any city streets to speak of here.
It's supposed to provide some inspiration beyond just me describing what's in our catalog and the hub features. So I wanted to show
it's
it.
good for the generalized hub.
And we're creating one like this for the Voight station, but I just don't have it ready to show publicly.
Yeah, we're a very specialized hub here because there's basically no car parking. And so we're not going to have cars very much. And there's streets. It's mostly a walking. It's Greenfield Ridgeway, or whatever the new street is called. Right, with the main walking paths, and you can drive bicycles, but you can't drive cars in.
Right, but considering the student experience of being able to get...
Turn off that sound.
Okay, I don't...
There's a mute button, just push it.
Okay, it's almost over. Thanks for humoring me, but I included it in the presentation just so you could see the simulation and how we've brought all the things together. It's listed on the website that I'll provide as part of some of the resources. If folks are traveling from Pepper Canyon Station down to Westfield, for example, how do I get back to the keynote? Can you help me?
Yeah.
Is it this one? No, this one.
There you go.
So we'll be sure to share this PowerPoint, but I've hyperlinked all the different resources that we've already created at SANDAG regarding the Mobility Hub concept, our regional Mobility Hub strategy, and then now we're in the middle of a Mid-Coast Mobility Hub strategy. So we're intending to include whatever creations you folks come up with for the Pepper Canyon Station in the set of deliverables that I'm sending to the Federal Transit Administration in fulfillment of our grant. They gave us a grant to do this project and create a Mid-Coast Mobility Hub strategy for all 9 stations for the whole corridor. So this is just one of 9 that we're working on, and we're excited to include them in the package. All of the websites have information on referencing our catalog. We created some Mobility Hub prototype sites, including Oceanside for our regional strategy. We have a memo on implementation considerations and the importance of data collection, allocating space, enabling policies, and equity considerations so that you can implement some of these features while paying attention to all different kinds of ages, abilities, and incomes. So keeping those in mind. I'm going to encourage our Mid-Coast engineers to share kind of the most compelling resources that they can regarding construction, in case that's helpful. There's a lot of information out there, so we're really going to hone it down to really kind of the high level stuff. And I just wanted to kind of share this aerial shot of the project in construction, just because it really puts it in perspective about how this one station at Pepper Canyon is part of a larger network. At SANDAG, we're thinking about mobility hubs in terms of a huge network throughout our region. Our executive director just last Friday announced to all of the electeds that sit on our board that we're going to be rebooting our regional plan and redefining our transit network and kind of starting from scratch. And mobility hubs are going to be a key component of that, and it's going to be exciting to include Mid-Coast as part of that new network where we're also incorporating shared mobility services while ensuring it's safe to walk and bike to transit. And that concludes the presentation.
Marisa, you have a question?
Oh, yeah.
I would keep it on so that people
Okay.
can hear the questions.
Hi.
Hi. So since we're looking at a pretty heavily student audience and as a fellow alum, does SANDAG have any specific strategies that you're using to cater, or I guess to tailor towards the student audience and the UCSD community in regards to getting students that are commuting from longer distances within the region to try to incentivize them to switch over to the trolley?
Yeah, I mean, with the trolley coming in, it's going to be a huge opportunity for students to think about, hey, I no longer have to live right in the nearby community, which isn't the most affordable, and I know it's gone up since I've lived here, to think about where they can change their commute. And they can live anywhere between here and the border, assuming they're willing to spend the time to ride the trolley from that location. In terms of trying to get perspective from students that either live here or are commuting here, one thing we were lacking in our initial public outreach phase when we did a whole online survey, kind of interactive data collection effort, we were lacking a lot of student input. We tried hard to work with UCSD Communications to put out that survey and get feedback on the types of features that folks would like to see. But if you're interested in maybe incorporating some kind of outreach component on campus to fill the gaps where we were unable to do that, that's going to provide some added perspective about what kinds of features do people like. what's going to help them once they get to campus, and what's going to maybe help them at their origin station. What do they need if they're considering moving further down the trolley line to commute up? So you could think about hubs as being not just this destination, but hubs that exist as part of that greater regional network at the origin as well. Okay, thank you.
Let me ask you just a few questions. First is, like, what's the timeline for submission to the federal transit agency that you mentioned? So all this is going to go in.
My desired date would be on or around June 30th. Technically, I have about until August 1st, but I'm trying to submit everything before that.
Okay.
So we can be a good grantee.
Yeah, awesome. And then my second question was, what is Sandag's connection with other kinds of mobility services, like bus routes, for example, or like where does your jurisdiction fall in? And then thinking about those other forms.
We're working closely with MTS, and they've been a part of this whole strategy to kind of be open to some of these features. They're conducting their feeder bus study currently. So of course they're going to still keep feeder bus or local bus service connecting to campus, but we're seeing how we can incorporate some of these features at the stations. Once we build them, we hand the keys over to them to operate and maintain. So we have to make sure that they're comfortable with some of the features we're recommending at station, even if it's just desired and maybe not ready for deploying in fall 2021. But we're working closely with them to see, are there situations, like for example our Balboa station connecting the Pacific Beach community to the trolley? Do we need to look at something else besides traditional local bus service? Or at the very least, do we need to look at kind of dedicating space in lanes to be able to connect from trolley to sea? Because right now, buses or any kind of shuttle vehicle are going to sit in the same traffic as everyone else, kind of driving to the beach and searching for parking.
And for something like if students are excited about this question of rerouting lanes or something like this, can you just give a sense of the factors that go into that kind of project? I'm sure there's economic factors, there's jurisdictional factors, just a little bit about that.
Yeah, I mean, it's, honestly, from my experience, it's been mostly political. Mm-hmm. So I think in terms of dreaming big, I would maybe defer to Ray on what she'll encourage you to do on campus, on the campus property. I don't know what kind of roads may be kind of a no-go in terms of trying to suggest things, or if they're completely open to new ideas. I would think it's the latter. But sometimes we have to start with kind of a vision and help justify and estimate kind of demand for a connecting service that really is going to warrant the space.
Mm-hmm. Great.
Eric?
So just so that students who might be going through the planning process have some context, would Sandag be able to provide any data about, because I'm sure there's projected numbers on trolley ridership,
Right.
And you might have numbers as to, you know, how many people are commuting and from where are they commuting to
Right.
get to UCSD.
Right.
Campus planning may have some of those projections numbers as well. Would that be data that Sandag could provide for this sort of competition design challenge?
Sure. I mean, if you make a list, besides just ridership and other information, I can compile it. We're actually putting together some revised commute origin information for our Board of Directors retreat next week. So once that data set is kind of ready, I'd be happy to share it. And it will be in time for this design challenge.
Thanks, Marisa.
Thank you.
Before, I just want to say something. This is a real opportunity for us here on this campus, and before Ray gets up and talks, I just want to say something about the Sandag relationship. I mean, to go beyond the traditional market research and all the work that they've done as an organization for our region and get our voices, this is a major opportunity. And then to hear from you, Marisa, that they're indeed doing, you know, Sandag is embarking on an entire regional plan revamp. This is huge for us right now. So I think just taking into account all of the resources that they're willing to provide, most of that have been given to us, but also you can see just from hearing Marisa talk how open Sandag is to getting our voices. We are serious about this design-a-thon. You know, a lot of times with hackathons, it's just about great ideas and getting inspired. We want some really cool ideas to come out of this. And then we're going to hear from campus planning on how that fits into the larger picture. But I just want to say a special thank you to Sandag for investing a lot of time to make this happen, and how excited we are to have you all here and all the other folks that are going to come for this design-a-thon, because it really is this is the true definition of a real life opportunity to make a change on our campus, and then ultimately, as you can see, to the larger region. So thank you, Marisa.
No problem.
Yep.